Friends, I'm Max Grinnell, author and urbanologist. I'm really excited about today's program. We're exploring Chicago's identity through postcards. And not just any postcards. These are postcards from my own personal collection. One of the things that's always fascinated me is how postcards are little snippets in time. And for so much of the late 19th and 20th century, they were mementos. People would send them back home to folks in Sioux City. Maybe they'd send them to Peoria. Maybe they'd send them to San Francisco, New York, other parts of the world as reminders of where they had been. And of course, I'm most interested in those postcards that celebrate those interesting corners of Chicago. And here's an interesting fact. One of the world's most prolific postcard producers was based right here in Chicago on West Irving Park Road, the Kurt Teich Company. And the amazing thing about Kurt Teich, who was a German immigrant, was he had started his career in 1898 in Chicago, and it became a multi-million postcard business. They produced images from all over the world, and they really had a special interest in Chicago. In fact, he was the originator of the greetings from idea. Friends, we're here at the tail end of the Midway Plaisance, a place that I first started exploring when I came to Chicago over 25 years ago to go to college. The Midway was full of amazing experiences. There were people playing soccer, there were people playing instruments, there were folks riding horses on the bridle trail, and when I made my way all the way over to the western end, I encountered Lorado Taft's Fountain of Time. Interestingly enough, it was also one of the first postcards I had of Chicago. As you see behind me, the Fountain of Time explores the human condition through 100 different figures. At the western end, you'll see faces of the elderly, and as you move across, you'll see military types, artists, and eventually small children. It really is a sensual exploration of the human condition. And some of this is captured in the postcard I have. Though admittedly it's a postcard from the early 20th century, so what you find is a group of men in bowler hats perusing the sculpture, perhaps looking for their own humanity. It really is a tremendous work, and the postcard starts to do it justice, but what really captures it is coming out here and exploring it for yourself. So I invite you to come down and take a look and explore a little bit of the Fountain of Time on your own. Friends, next we're going to head on over to the Shoreland Hotel. Picture this, it's 1926, you're arriving to the Shoreland Hotel in Hyde Park. Maybe you've brought bags for a week or two. Maybe you're planning on spending some time on the beach. Maybe you're gonna go riding on the nearby horse trails. That was part of the experience you would have had at one of Hyde Park's many upscale residential hotels in the 1920s. During this decade, there were at least 10 new hotels built within a half a mile of where we are right now. The Shoreland was my first home in Chicago. I lived here when it was a dormitory for the University of Chicago. And it was a tremendous experience to pull up in a cab, arriving from the Loop, and realize that this would be my home for the next 4 years. I would be part of Chicago history. And the Shoreland has a fascinating history. At one point, Jimmy Hoffa had rooms in the building. Elvis had stayed here, and it was a place where people from Hyde Park High School, the University of Chicago, and other institutions throughout the South Side had gala balls, organization meetings, and other celebrations. And the postcard was something that I came to later, and realizing that I could have this physical, tangible reminder of this place that I had called home. Next, we're gonna head over to 9th and Wabash to talk about the old YMCA Hotel. All right, so the postcard for the South Loop YMCA was something that was gifted to me many years ago. And if you walk down this section, the 800 block of South Wabash, you wouldn't see any signage that would indicate that there used to be a massive sign on top of the building that said YMCA. It was kind of a formative moment for me in thinking about urban history, urban change, and the city of Chicago more generally. Of course, as all of you know, in the Village People's famous hit, YMCA, they tell us you can stay at the YMCA. This was not something that I was aware of as a kid, but really this was part of the original mission to provide low-cost housing for people in cities. Interestingly enough, in 1987, this YMCA was converted into upscale residential apartments. And of course today, it still has a mix of retail on the first floor level. Interestingly enough, there are a number of other YMCAs with amazing postcards from around the city of Chicago. The former Hyde Park YMCA on 53rd Street, now the home of a strip mall. And of course there are other YMCAs that still exist, like the Lawson House YMCA on Chicago Avenue. They're really part of an important part of the urban fabric of the city, and they also remind us that old buildings always have new uses. Friends, next we're heading on over to the north bank of the Chicago River to talk about the Merchandise Mart. Friends, we're looking at the Merchandise Mart. Years ago, a friend of mine had an internship inside the building, and she let me wander around while she was doing a few errands. One of the things that struck me then and now were the illustrative murals by Jules Guérin on the first floor. They depict various scenes of commerce from all over the world, which is appropriate because the Merchandise Mart is a place where you do have commerce come from all over the world. Design professionals, folks from Motorola, ConAgra, and all manner of other businesses. Still later, I found a postcard of the building from the 1950s. It depicts the Merchandise Mart illuminated by a vast array of lighting schemes. It almost seemed a little bit like magic right on the Chicago River. In 2021, each night at 9 and 9:30 p.m., you can come down to the banks of the Chicago River and feast your eyes on a visual illumination that they call art at the Mart. It's a remarkable artistic vision that is brought to what was once the world's largest building. Friends, next we're going to head over to the Fine Arts Building on South Michigan Avenue and talk about this remarkable landmark. Friends, I'm standing in the lobby of the Fine Arts Building. When I first moved to Chicago, you could see a movie here, you could go up to a bookstore on the second floor, and you could wander around to visit with violin makers, take a music lesson, or even maybe rent some space for yourself. It's one of those really amazing, adaptable, older buildings in the city. We're so fortunate to have it. It's also the subject of one of my favorite postcards because it really shows how South Michigan Avenue became a cultural and historic landmark. Today, we're going to get a chance to visit on the second floor with the folks at Exile in Bookville and also take a look around the building. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here in the Fine Arts Building at Exile in Bookville with Javier Ramirez. Javier, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is fantastic. Also, I have to point out, look at their amazing bookmarks. It's like a ticket. You're going to an amazing book or book show or book show. That's good. Okay. It's hard to imagine that I teach writing. Javier, tell us a little bit about I've been to a couple of different bookstores that's been in this space on the second floor of the Fine Arts Building. Tell folks what you all are doing here.
So we are right down in Bookville. It's a play on Liz Phair's seminal 1993 album called Exile in Guyville. We love books and music, so we decided we'd start a shop that catered to both and made people feel comfortable with both books and music. And we carry some vinyl here. We have a turntable. So yeah, my background is I worked with Tower Records for many years, and so the book music things are going in.
Many fond memories of Tower Records. Were you Clark Street, Wabash?
Yep.
Okay. Oh my goodness. The smell of the plastic too. It's hard to forget. Those of us that remember that. We've been asking everybody kind of what they've been doing during the pandemic. Or will you all be having events again soon, or what's kind of on the possible docket?
We hold at least 2 virtual events a week, and then we've actually started hosting in-person events in the last month or so. On the 4th floor, we have there's a courtyard on the 4th floor that we use, like 40 people, seats 40 people. We have some events here in this space, smaller events, but yeah, we're event heavy. We like it. The books that we love to read and recommend those events.
And now I'm going to be that person since we talk about book recommendations.
Sure.
Do you have a book or two on or about Chicago that you tell people you should check out X or Y or Z?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Gary Christ wrote one of my favorite books about Chicago called City of Scoundrels, and it's for me it takes place in like 1919, right around that period, and some crazy things happen like over a 12-day period, and that still affect the city today. I mean, people go to Devil in the White City for the Chicago book, but I think that if you really want to know about Chicago, City of Scoundrels is
fantastic. This has been wonderful. And what are your current operating hours?
We're open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day except for Sunday.
Javier, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is live and sweaty out here on Balbo. I am right in front of the Blackstone Hotel. You may know it as one of the grand dames of luxury upscale housing along Michigan Avenue. I know it as a place where I first spent my very first night in the city of Chicago. I pulled up, got off the Orange Line, stayed in a room on the 7th floor, and was wowed. The grandeur, the jazz showcase was on the 2nd floor, and I remember thinking to myself, this is what it's like to be in a really big city, a great city. And true to form, the Blackstone Hotel still welcomes guests 100+ years after it first went up. Interestingly enough, the Blackstone Hotel was designed by Benjamin Marshall, who also designed the Drake Hotel. It's a tremendous structure, and we're going to go ahead and step inside and learn a little bit more about the hotel. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here with the general manager of the Blackstone, Pierre Louis. Pierre, thank you so much for having us. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about where we are in the Blackstone.
Absolutely. So first of all, we're inside the Blackstone Hotel, which is it's a historic hotel from 1910. So at the time it was the largest and tallest building in Chicago. So very excited about that. But this particular room is called the Barber Shop. And the reason it's called the Barber Shop is because it was an actual working barber shop in its days, where people would come and or men mostly would get their haircut, their beard shaved, and get some sort of facials, I guess, of the time. And the most infamous customer we had was Al Capone, which is very well known in Chicago, as we know, and all around the world. And if you'd like, I'll tell you a story about Al Capone later, about me coming to America. But Al Capone used to get his haircut here. And the story is that one of the reasons he liked this building, and this room in particular, is that there was no natural light and no windows, meaning that he felt safe in this environment, that he was not going to get shot from behind or whatever. There's also talk and discussion and stories, which this one we haven't really been able to corroborate the story, but that there was an exit and a place where he would store his liquor. All right, so this actually, our piece of art, by the way, we do have 1,600 pieces of art in this building. This is only one of them on the 6th floor, but it really encapsulates the entire story of the Blackstone as a building and as a story. So I'm going to try to show you a few of the elements that have been captured. The first one being Mr. Timothy Blackstone, which was the first owner of this building, which actually was his house, which got demolished. As you can see, you have the wrecking ball, and then the hotel was built by the Drake brothers with an architectural firm, Marshall and Fox were the architect. Mr. Blackstone, as you can see, was in the railway industry. You see the train, you see the beam here for the railway and the construction. So it's kind of a mishmash of both. During the course of the history of this building, as I've told you earlier, we had Al Capone and the barber shop downstairs, where Al Capone used to get his haircut. So you see Al getting his haircut here. We had 13 presidents that stayed with us. And you have the seal of the presidents as well as a beautiful bed. We happen to have a few different things in the building, one of them being a jazz club. And in that jazz club, we had some famous jazz musicians at the time, one of them being Lena Horne, that was here, thus a picture and her name listed here. We had movies, as I said earlier, we had movies filmed here, The Untouchable, The Hot Sucker, The Color of Money, that were filmed here in the building, as well as many other more contemporary series, which I will not name, but a lot of them have been filmed here as well. Another nod to our history is room 915, which is the suite, the Smokefield room, the Smokefield suite, where W.J. Harding was nominated as President of the United States for the Republican National Convention. And then another picture here, which represents the Maharaji, which was the last owner of the building before it closed for 10 years, and then we reopened it. So I felt that this piece of art kind of encapsulates the entire story of the building very well and give you a snapshot of what all has happened since 1910.
One of the things that I've enjoyed sharing with you about my postcards today is the way they reveal snapshots in Chicago's history. They're static images. Sometimes you flip them over, you might learn a little bit more about who wrote them, why they wrote them, and certainly when they wrote them. You'll want to take some time, maybe look online, go to an antique mart, maybe browse an online digital collection to learn a little bit more about your own memories that you can have. I encourage you to seek out your own postcards from your own communities around Chicago. Take a look at the Kurt Teich collection from the Newberry Library. Maybe browse an antique mart. Look around online, pick up a few of these postcards, and go out and explore their histories that they tell you about a place, its people, and community. Friends, you know we like to close each segment with a haiku that I write for you based on our experiences exploring and discovering new things about the city. And here's today's. Segments of the past. Flip over to read those words. That might well move you.